Hi, this is Warren Buckleitner, and I'm just back from the Digital Kids Conference in San Francisco, where I was the moderator for a panel, the last panel of the entire conference call on monetization. The panel consisted of people from all sorts, all sectors of the children's interactive media space. There were app developers, there were app stores represented, and curators. And we had a great conversation about some of the issues facing how to make money in the space. So before all of this stuff slips out of my mind because it was not recorded, I wanted to capture the section that I introduced and put it up for discussion. So let's get started. The first thing that we did was I shared a slide that was a result of a brainstorm that we did from out in the lobby right before we went on, and that was the question is, what's your payday? How do you make money on making and selling apps these days? And Alex Alex Turetsky from IntelliJoy helped me with this. First is you charge a fee like Tokaboka does, and that's a 99 cent or $2.99 or $4.99. You just put up a price, and of course there are conditions, and many people try that and don't make a lot of money. Some people do, like Tokaboka, and you have to do it the right way. The other model is the freemium model, which is becoming more popular, and that is freemium with some sort of internal monetization. That's why we put very popular, and IAP means in-app purchase. And so there are strengths and weaknesses of that model, but we see it very frequently. Another model is to put advertising in, and advertising is, as David Kleeman points out, has been in children's media from the very beginning. The idea here is that you can either put banner ads in that are COPPA compliant, and you can, sometimes that's misused, but it's a way you can have a free app which gets downloaded a lot and then have views. We start to see some shady practice when advertising comes in, and to be honest, we don't review a lot of those. Subscription models are also increasing in frequency. There was a big announcement from Highlights for Children and Fingerprint Play at the conference about starting to put Highlights for Children content up by subscription, and many other name brand organizations are doing subscriptions. Sponsored is another way that some people make money, and that is you can get somebody to advertise, turn the whole thing into an advertisement, or there could be product placements inside of the app. Now, we said beg, which is kind of has negative connotations, but that includes things like asking relatives. But Kickstarter is another way where you can actually bring people who are potential customers in as initial investors to support it. One of the most successful case studies of that is Reading Rainbow, who raised $6 million. That really put them on much better footing. You can also hire a grant writer, and this is brought up at the last App Camp. Shell Games has a grant writer, and they go after money that is either from government sources or foundation sources to help fund specific products. There's also venture money, and that has strengths and weaknesses. Then there is the whole commerce angle, and that is where there's a toy that you actually purchase at a toy store, and then there's a free app that controls it. So Tigly is one example. There are many others these days. Hasbro is really capitalizing on this. Just about every toy now, or many toys, have some sort of barcode that work with an app that enhance the play or leverage the play. And then we put in organized crime, to which some folks say, what about unorganized crime? I ask then for additions to the list, because we just come up with this, and there's some good discussion, which I can't recall. I did add, though, you can also make money by charging people for conferences to learn about making apps or writing books. There are also people who make money by selling reviews, and so there's a lot of both ethical and unethical ways to make money in this space. Now, I gave a disclosure at the beginning that I have always been heavily influenced by my work with the Consumers Union when they hired me to write a white paper in 2007 in which we watched children go online and recorded the footage in an ethnographic way. So we just gave them cameras and coded all the raw footage, and it really has influenced my thinking on this space. That report is still online, but it's very dated, obviously. Things have changed, and this summer I worked with a lot of children at MediaTek, which is in our library, and it's a free public technology center. And I've been able to watch a lot of kids and understand what they use and what apps they have on their devices. And sometimes I'm not very happy by what I see. Now, I synthesized a whole lot of data very crudely to say that children from families who are middle or upper class tend to have iPhones or maybe an iPad. They also have data plans, and the poor kids who usually have nothing, or they have clunky $100 tablets that are often Android based, or a couple of Amazon Fires, or they have nothing. So in all cases, all children download a lot of free apps, and they're very smart about knowing what is current. They know their passwords, and it's kind of a myth that kids don't know their passwords. They, as in other generations, children are smarter than we are, and they don't always choose the higher quality apps. And that's sort of the whole premise of my presentation, because one of the apps on one of the kids' tablets was this one. And this app was also demonstrated by Catherine Allen at the last app camp, in which we had a frank discussion about reality. You know, what kids are really doing with these devices when they're in a system where there's so many free apps that vary in quality. And again, this is not to say that apps are, any app is particularly good or bad. And as one of the panelists pointed out, choice is a good thing, and app stores should not be in the business of filtering or getting in the way of choice. And I would very much agree with that. So, and I also made the point that this is a really well-designed app. Stargirl is well-designed. It's got some of the best business thinking. They have expert coders, and they have expert UI designers who are thinking about how to make this experience easy, powerful, and I think my question here is their end motive. They also very smartly use a play pattern, and that's dress-up play. And so in this case, I've been playing Stargirl, and I now have an avatar as a 50-plus-year-old male. Make your own conclusions with that. I did a formal review in our last CTR Weekly, so reason I reviewed it is because I want to get smart on it myself, and I also want my readers to know what exactly is going on here. So in this case, you start out by customizing your avatar, building feelings of ownership, and you can start the dress up immediately. Now, this is a newsworthy app because they just signed with Paris Hilton, and so you can actually address the Paris Hilton avatar. And anyway, there's a lot of different kinds of things here, and I'm just going to show you a couple things. Ideally, I do a live demo, which we'll do at Duster Magic, of course, because there's a lot to this experience. It's very immersive. But one of the things here is that the menu in the back is you kind of swipe through all these different options, and one of those things is this farm thing, and if you touch that, it goes into a Farmville kind of activity. All these ideas are ripped off from various other apps. There's nothing really unique in any of this stuff, but it goes on to take you right to the App Store, and it sort of forces you into it in a tricky way. You can't exit from the movie or the preview unless you find a very small little X at the top of the screen. And if you touch anywhere else on the screen, it just takes you right into the right to the App Store for the point of purchase. I think that's the start of the questionable business practice here. It also rewards you for either sharing on Facebook or by downloading another app. And so it rewards you in a very concrete way through diamonds, and those diamonds can be used, coins and diamonds can be used to buy more stuff and get more dates with more interesting boys. Another very smart technique that it uses to increase engagement is that it rewards you for coming back day after day. So if I just come back and log in tomorrow, instantly I'm giving 1,000 coins that I can use for cool stuff. And so I call them time bombs, because it takes the time spent with this app is time that's not going to be spent with another app. And so we need to start thinking on a more bigger scale about what this means and what exposure to these kinds of experiences on this scale means for our culture. And that was really the intent of my entire presentation. Now, there's a lot of negative kinds of content in here from a bias point of view. This is sort of a poster child for gender bias. And now at this point, I reminded folks that I'm a parent of 2 daughters, and I would be very upset if my own daughters were playing with this app. Just look at the imagery here and the message about how to be every man's dream girl. It's a myth that only 13-year and older are playing with this. This has a teen rating in some of the app stores. I saw it on a 7-year-old's Android device. Kids are getting to this, and I'll get more to how they found it in a second. But this is the worst kind of experience that you want a kid to play with, and you're rewarded with dates with hot boys, and you get more money by giving them kisses, and this is where you get more coins. Lots of prompts for rating, and the way ratings are used in this is also designed to pre-filter the ratings, so kids that like it will be sent to rate it. And so Stargirl gets good ratings on most of the app stores, at 4.2 in one of them. There's another very important technique that's used that I talked about, and that is intermittent reinforcement. And this is an example of one where you'll get a gift and you don't know which one you'll get. And again, there's a time bomb. You come back in 2 hours, you get another gift, and if you want to finish now, you spend money and diamonds, and that will lead you to a cart or a shopping cart where you can buy more diamonds. So how do kids find out about these apps? Well, one way is that I would allege that app stores are currently designed to recommend similar apps, and that's just an algorithm that we know works, and it's used everywhere online. But this is where I think app stores could do more, and this is both iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. This is the Google Play screen, where similar to Stargirl and just look through what the top hits are, and those are themes that are of interest to young girls and some young boys. And because there's My Little Pony. Actually, that's a ripoff of My Little Pony. And so the whole theme of this panel was about money, and that's the underlying message here, is that Stargirl makes a lot of money, and I would allege that it's not in the most ethical way. Some of these are accidental purchases and so on. Last August, there were 63,000 downloads according to Sensor Tower, and earning the company $21,000. The app is valued at $2.6 million, and he has licenses with Paris Hilton and that kind of thing. So this is big business here, and I would allege that the way the system is set up, the app stores profit from this. So they're getting a significant percentage of that 21,000 every month. So they don't have an incentive for stopping this behavior. So I put this up, which is obviously a little controversial, but I think it's reality, that the Apple, Google, and Amazon and others are not necessarily committing these crimes and making this ethnic or this gender bias and tricking kids, but they are driving the getaway car. They're giving the plumbing and the financial infrastructure to move the money from a parent's credit card into that 21,000. So I also thought it was important to look a little closer at intermittent reinforcement. And so my background as an educational psychologist is, I know and have studied this, and I know it's very powerful, in part because my wife uses it on me, and it works. Casinos use it, dog trainers use it. It comes right out of B.F. Skinner's behaviorism, and you can see the effects on pigeons and rats. It's part of the family of different behaviors that come from operant conditioning, where you get a treat at irregular intervals, and that treat is in the form of either is money or attention from virtual boys, or it's another treat is why you check your email, and so the behavior produces a reward, so you check it again, and it can turn you in to what some people call click mules, just mindlessly going back and over again. You could allege that it starts addictive behaviors or negative behaviors. Bjorn Jeffrey was the opening speaker of the conference, and he talked about a disadvantage of the freemium business model. I really like this quote because I'm seeing this in a lot of apps, including an Inside Out app that Disney just produced, which is a lot like Candy Crush, in that it dangles the fun in front of the child, and just when they start to get to the fun, you pull it away, and I think that's tricky. I think that's stealing candy from babies. And so, this app in particular, Stargirl, which again, this is on one of the tablets in our public library from one of the kids. Extrapolate that times every public library in the U.S. and you see this app's getting a lot of play. I mean, this actually has a roulette wheel in it. It's, you can't make a more direct association of operant conditioning than that. And there's advertising for the real deal. Let's just get right into poker. So, obviously there's some moralistic tones to this whole presentation, which is what I wanted to throw at the panel. And we had quite a discussion after, about what this meant. But I wanted to leave with what should be done, and what are the concrete recommendations. So one thing I believe is that the real price should be shown on the app icon, at the point of purchase. And this comes right out of the Consumers Union work, that you put a price on the goods so you can make logical decisions. And I would also suggest that you put a time, how much time does it take to get all of the dress up items and the things that a child's going to want. Put that and say it can take up to 3 hours to get to the Paris Hilton level, or it can take 60 hours, whatever that is. I think time for a child is very valuable, and time removed from other options should be disclosed up front. I think with interactive media, time is more important in some cases than money. And then make the labeling child appropriate, developmentally appropriate for children. If they're going to be the ones doing the purchasing and downloading, they should be given the information. So also the big one here is make apps that you'd want your own children to play. And then I went back to Newton Minnow's Vast Wasteland speech from 1961 that sort of started this movement toward making quality children's television. And of course, this is the Fred Rogers speech to Congress. If you haven't seen it, watch it, because Fred was very influenced by this idea that there just wasn't good quality on the television. And my theory is that we have a vast wasteland on steroids right now. The kinds of apps that I'm seeing for free, if you just spend time downloading, just pick 20 of them and have a look at what children are choosing from, it's something that we should start getting concerned about. And so I ended on a very big theme, and I went to sort of a religious theme, and it was done with humor, and hopefully not to offend anybody, but I wanted to turn to the golden rule, because I don't think Cope is going to save us on this issue. I think the golden rule is something that, I did a little research on it, and I realized that it's in every religion, so the idea is that you do unto others as you would have them do to you. And it's the ethic of reciprocity. One should not treat others the way that they would not want to be treated. It's a real global sort of human idea, and it's in every major religion, from Islam to Hinduism to Christianity to iOS. Actually, I don't think Apple really has do unto others, but I mean Steve Jobs is famous, or actually Larry Page and Sergey Brin are famous for the, don't be evil, and I think we need to get to that again. And so you can see the evil here in the reviews, even despite the 4.2 rating. Kids are oftentimes feeling ripped off, and they're smart. Again, getting back to that theme, they know more than we think. And so in a way, I think, it's important that we turn these free apps into learning experiences. We're not going to remove them. We're not going to remove the freemium model, but we need kids to start understanding, as part of their survival and media literacy in the modern age, what techniques are being used on them. And trust me, a 5, 6, 7-year-old is not going to think a whole lot about knowing the difference between some of the advertising techniques. They can get tricked. I do really like what Amazon's doing here about showing all of the different APIs, application permissions, that are going on behind the scenes. And so Stargirl does all of these things, and it can actually access your location, and it can do things that you might find very upsetting. And so I think this, we need to put that, not hide it under a sub-menu. We need to put that up front. Again, Stargirl is a very expertly designed experience. It is designed first and foremost to provide a solid play experience, and I wish I saw that level of design in a lot of, quote, educational apps. I wish curriculum designers could figure out some of these lessons. But the other objectives that are mixed in with that, to get you to share on Facebook, to make a child part of the marketing, to make money by tricking you, to propagate like a virus by Stargirl is what I call a cluster app. So it's one of a business series of partners that leads to things like Angry Birds and other kinds of freemium models, and it can kind of just take you to a very sort of dark place. Here are some comments of a child who accidentally bought $100 worth of coins, and you can't get your money back. They do warn you very much up front, and there are icons that say this app takes real money. Kids don't care. And also this game is too addicting, says one child. I have to delete it. So they understand that operant conditioning can be sort of a negative influence on their life. So I would suggest, and I suggested here in our panel, that we modify the ethic of reciprocity for digital publishers, and that is do unto the children of others as you would have them do to your children. And these kids here are faux kids. They're keynote models, so that might not even be the father of them. They might just be they were the placeholder art. But I thought, what a great example. I don't know those kids. They're strangers to me, but they are the future, and I know that they're real. I know they're young, and so they have their whole lives in front of them, and it's up to me as an adult to try to do everything I can to make that a positive future. And so I asked every app developer, would I let my own kids download my own app or the apps I'm selling? So a very simple idea, but I think very powerful. And then the final, big quote that I always like to show is from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was he was one of the few who rose up against Hitler. He was a minister in Germany, and he sadly was captured and killed by Hitler right before the war ended, and he had a very horrible death. But he died at a young age. But he left in one of his writings, he said, the ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world it leaves to our children. Obviously, I'm not thinking that this is anything on a scale of what happened in the 1940s. However, I do think these are some very big questions, and that we should take this very simple idea, to look on a global scale about what kinds of experiences we are offering our kids these days. And at that point, we turned it over to the panel for discussion. I wish I could share that with you, but I did want to just capture this before it goes out of my mind. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you have to think about this issue. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.